Welcome, fellow ladies and gentlemen, as we continue our travels into the void of the random, as we come across the grandiosity of Wilderun Epigone. But with me always on these travels is the Reverend Ben Lindsay, the Murder Basement Gabe Cooper, and the Dr. David Beatsow. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen?
Like a fart on a cold day, or this album cover floating along.
Just drifting as if in the middle of a bunch of poison gas, just caught on the breeze.
About to be engulfed by a large, very large wool blanket.
Yep. Very large wool blanket. This is my pick for the month of January. It is their fourth studio album. I'll just jump right into this. It was released on January 7th, 2022. It was recorded at More Sound Studios in Syracuse, New York. It is on the Century Media label. Has a runtime of 60 minutes and 11 seconds. Evan Anderson Berry's on vocals, guitars, rhythm guitars, and acoustic guitars. Daniel Mueller on bass, synthesizer, and dulcimer. Jonathan Tichy on drums. Wayne Ingram on lead guitars, guitars resonator, mandolin, baritone, and lap steel guitars. Joe Gettlers on lead guitars, and Kate Mueller, who I'm going to go off on a limb and say is either Daniel Mueller's sister or wife, is the guest vocalist. I don't know what track though.
The one that has female vocals.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know which specific track it was either. Shout out to them for using every possible variation of a guitar for some reason. But yeah, Epigone. So what did you think this, Tracey?
I mean, it's Wilderun. We've already had the journey with them last year at the beginning of the year with their
2019 album.
Yes, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'm drawing a blank. I want to say Resolution, but that's the name of a Veil of Imagination. There we go. Veil of Imagination. This is their first. Also,
I couldn't remember the name of it either. I listened to that much time. I still listen to that album, but I couldn't remember the name of it.
It's just that
the name is very relevant.
Yeah,
we listen to so many that I mean,
this is their first major label debut.
This one is.
The rest of them, they're independent, like I should call it. Actually, I think they self-released the other ones.
The others were released through Bandcamp. I think the last one also got released on Century Media because it's no longer available through Bandcamp when I was looking for the information on this one. So I think it's one of those things where it got picked up after release and has since been reissued.
Yeah, it's on Apple Music.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened is Century Media signed them and then started releasing Veil of Imagination. Until they put off Bandcamp. But yeah, I mean, we did this that album a little while ago. I gave it an A+. I'm in the bag for every album this band released until the end of time. Gives you my thoughts on the band, but I'm here for them. And I saw this guy in January. I was like, wonder what album I'm going to fucking pick now. It was a no-brainer for me. Unlike, I think the rest of you guys, I knew what album I was going to pick after seeing the list. Just off of who was coming out.
All right. So that is why you chose it and your thoughts on the band as a whole. So I guess I'll jump into my thoughts on this album. It's really interesting because, we could have the hackneyed is this metal or not conversation about this. I don't really feel the need to. I will say that this album really kind of wanted to be Folklore by Taylor Swift really, really hard. And that's not a bad thing because that is a phenomenal album in the non-metal genre. This is, the producer could turn the knobs a couple of ways and turn this into an Americana album, and I think it would have served it a little bit better, honestly. Because, the singing on here is pretty good. The guitar playing is also very, very nice. It's incredibly folksy.
Yeah, it is incredibly folksy. For me, this album, I think it's a story of two albums because I think this is two albums with a clear demarcation between ambition and distraction. One, I think it It's reminded me a lot of the Hawken album we did, Virus, way back when.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I feel like this has this very grandiose, all-encompassing sound to it that do a really good job of being loud and full with the bass, and like they have brass instruments coming along with it in, and then they also pull back, and then like here's just a little acoustic, nothing else along with it in certain parts of it. Hell, even in the same fucking track. And then it just kind of carries on. They do that really well through Ambition, and I think it hits distraction. And they're like, we kind of want to get more out of this album. Let's add 20 minutes here. Like, I feel like they could have cut it there and had a 40-minute album of really fantastic work.
This album is too long. Yeah, it almost reminds me, and I don't remember which one it was, but one of the, I do agree with you about the Hawken thing, but it also reminds me of one of the, one of your guy, Devin Townsend's albums, in which he had that like mini part that was like a 4-part musical movement in the middle of it that could have been its own EP. And that's kind of how I felt about this too.
I think that was his Empath, his self-titled, not Transcendence, because that one's pretty self-contained from start to finish. Empath is the one that's all over the place.
I don't remember, but yeah, you're probably right. It was Empath.
I'm glad both you brought up the fact that this is like really 2 albums in one. I think that's a real major structural issue with the record, other than the fact that some of this stuff that is on this record in terms of the lush instrumentation, the large choir type vocals, string orchestra and super long songs. Those are the things that some people might have limited tolerance for, myself included. There's not a lot of heavy riffing on this. The harsh vocals are not really that good where they appear. And what it reminded me the most of actually was Michael Romeo, which we dealt with not too long ago, in the sense that it seems to be an imaginary soundtrack to a film, rather than a genre in some other album, or an album in some other genre.
This is your first experience of Wilderun, right, Gabe?
Yeah.
That's the soundtrack to a film is every album that they've released so far.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a good movie, though.
It's also a genre question too. Like, it's sort of like this symphonic, proggy, folky stuff, and you can hear most of the lyrics. You can understand what's going on. So there must be some message in there, but I didn't really get it because it was sort of lost on me.
I liked the last one. I give that thing a B+. And I love the brass, like the size of it, as you say, Tracey. It's quite full and lush. And I can imagine this is not for everyone. I think it is very soundtrack-like, but I don't know. I liked that album and this one. And I don't always like the stuff Tracey likes, but in this case, like, we have aligned. I just think it's a cool thing. And I think the harsh vocals, I wish they happened more, maybe. And I'm not going to argue he's the best harsh vocalist in history, but it's convincing and not what you expect when there's a dulcimer. Pardon?
So no, I prefer his clean vocals to his harsh vocals too.
Yeah. But I want to say, I think compared to Veil of Imagination, they did pull back on the use of harsh vocals because it's more heavily used in that album than it is this one.
Agreed. I
think they kind of went more on his clean vocals on this, and the choir vocals kind of, I think, to add that grandiosity to it and kind of give it a little more song sound to it.
Speaking of songs, shall we move on to those?
I mean,
if you have more to say, please.
I'm just thinking, did I forget anything? Did I miss anything?
Do you think this is folk metal? And I'm asking because I'm a dumbass and I just Googled it, and that's the genre that popped up. I'm like,
it's got mix. It's prog. I just consider it prog because it has the mix of symphonic, folk, like Ben was saying, Americana. It's got mix of death metal. It's got mix. I don't know. Gabe's upset that it's not as it's not as riff
driven.
Yes, as what he likes.
I'm not upset by it. I'm not
As we'll
upset by
see
it.
soon.
You seem visibly upset.
No, I'm not upset about it. What I do think is that you know, if it wants to be metal, it maybe should have a few riffs in it. But I don't know.
There
Like
it is.
I know I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper here, but like if I'm going to buy this record on the basis of it is a prog metal record, I want to hear
It's
that.
got riffs. It's even got guitar solos in it, and there's some
I
tuning
guess,
in it. But I mean, just because the entire album's not
Bluegrass has guitar
40
solos as well, Tracy.
but
Well,
as long as
I
it's not
also
the
feel
entire
like-
album's not an hour.
I also feel
of drop E or drop D.
no, but
and
they're
that's
they're
all
very
it
they're
is.
sprinkled in there.
Doesn't mean it has to. It's not metal. I mean,
I love the fact that he's having this argument with somebody other than me.
Well, I think
Yeah, I know. Finally.
regardless, the riffs and sort of the speed and what little groove there is, it's a sprinkling. It's really not very much to speak of, and it may be more on a preceding album, but we're dealing with this one, and I think
You're a sprinkling.
there are some interesting things going on here musically that aren't part of this, like lush instrumentation, lots of like swells and flourishes and choral parts and stuff like this in the second album in this album.
Yeah.
But and if that were the album, I'd have an easier time dealing with it, because it's at least sort of like that's where I see a lot of the experimentation happening. The fact that it's long and has orchestra and it doesn't necessarily in itself mean that it's experimental. You know what I mean? Like you plop it in
sure.
something that is labeled metal, maybe, but not intrinsically.
Yeah, I've heard plenty of symphonic metal that was not very innovative. That's not what it did.
Yeah.
So
To give my answer to the question that David didn't ask me about whether this was folk metal or not, I would say that because of the instruments used and their association with folk, it is, but it's folk metal in that it is like evoking folk narratives and things like that. No, I don't think it fits that at all.
it's not how they're living in Boston, man.
Yeah.
what their guitar work, like at the beginning of Pasture, what that reminds me of is similar to like what Amorphous does in their previous couple albums, and we'll see how it does on their when it's coming out next month, I think.
Yeah.
And see if they kind of continue a trend, but they're not. They use several things that normal metal bands do, styles and forming. It's just that it's not that start to finish, which I think is where the maybe we're part of it's this butting heads is coming from. Because I like just kind of in tracks. I love that it opens up with Exhaler and you get 40 minutes of this kind of softness there at the forefront of it, and then it bleeds into Wool Gatherer, and at the minute and a half mark there, it just hits you with this fullness of the orchestra and everything behind it. But as for tracks, I like the first album on this album a whole lot. The second album's not bad, but 1 through 5, I fucking love. And if they would have done like into the album there, Ambition was the closing track, I would give this album an A+.
But would it be an EP?
It'd be 40 minutes at that point still.
Jesus, don't say that to Ben. He probably knows.
No, I'm aware. I'm aware of how long this
he
album
knows.
is.
He gets it.
So, Exhaler, I actually liked the synth mix that they released at the end of it more than I liked the opening track. And yeah, I agree with Gabe that I actually think that the Distraction EPs or mini album in here is a little more interesting than what they had done in the first half of the album. I still won't say that I necessarily liked those songs, but I did find those a little bit better than the first half. And again, I like the Exhaler synth mix.
So I didn't pick out too many songs here that I thought were ones that I would come back to. I actually like Distraction 2 quite a bit. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, actually, which no one has brought up yet, is the cover, which is it's the true end of the album. And I think it's an okay cover of Radiohead's Everything in Its Right Place. But one of the strengths of the original is actually that it's very understated and minimalistic. The fact that this version of it is large, epic, and in charge like the rest of the record is doesn't really fit the song, but it's successful insofar as this band has made this Radiohead song their own. So, I mean, good on them. I am not sure, why it needs to end the record, but that's okay.
I mean, it was that or a synth mix, man. Those are your choices. I liked both EPs that they duct taped together. So the first EP, that was sort of the more metal-y one. That reminded me a bit more of the previous album, I have to say. And then I thought those songs were pretty cool. I liked 1 and 3. I liked their previous album. I like this one. It's soundtracky in a way that I find good. But yeah, I admit it's sort of, I think the comparison to Hawken is apt. We've had a couple that were like this, that were, I don't know if they cobbled together, but this is a double album pretending it isn't. And that's not a death blow for me, but man, on that basis alone, and 7 other bases shot Mastodon and kicked them in a ditch. So,
yeah. And I want to clarify, it sounds like I didn't dislike the distraction stuff. Like, I actually enjoyed it, but I like the first half more than the second half.
Well, just tell us how much you actually liked it, Tracey.
I think it's a great album. A-, 92.
I think it's an excellent album. I'm going to give it the same grade I gave the previous album. It is a B+.
I gave the last album a D+. I think this one is better than that, although only marginally so. So I'm going to give this a C.
Winning.
Yeah, this one's going to get a C from me. I think that there are maybe 1 or 2 tracks I would go back to on this, but that's about it. I don't think that the whole album is going to get more listens from me, unfortunately.
That brings us to an average of 83.
That's again, man. It's a B. That's a B. They're going to make it.
Yeah. So, who would buy this?
I
wouldn't.
I'm to the point with this band that if I was buying their albums, I would buy it on band name alone.
Yeah, me too. I don't hear. Anyway. Yes, I probably would, just because I like the last one, and that's usually how it worked, right? Because there weren't a lot of opportunities to listen to it, and none of the sources I went to would let you listen in advance. So you're like, well, I guess the last one was okay. And would I be disappointed? No, it's cool. I don't know. I like it, but I'm a weird person. So yeah, I think I'd buy this. I gave it a B+. I mean, as I said to you all, not that that's the only criterion for purchase, as Ben noted, but
plus it's a good album cover.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's
not.
Attractive. Shut up. What do you mean you don't like this album cover?
I like the album cover.
No.
You do too. Damn it, Ben. Why don't yuck my yum? What do you not like about this album?
There were like 1.5 good album covers in these 4 albums that we did.
It wasn't a
if you
great
like
run.
it, that's fine. But it's like whatever. It's a vague amorphous gasoid on a field.
You're a vague amorphous gas on the field.
I am. That's how I can bloviate on these podcasts so well.
That's how I roll. Well, shit.
Gabe, would you buy it?
I don't think I would.
I'd be very surprised if you did.
All right. Tracey, what are we doing next time?
Next time here on Thunderdome Metal Reviews, we are doing Gabe's pick for January in Druid Lord and the release of Relics of the Dead.
Note, this is a good album cover.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. I was like, this album cover.
I was going to say, did someone actually suggest that this wasn't a good album cover?
This album
let's talk about that.
It's so righteous. I know. I pulled this up larger to see it. I'm like, oh shit, Druid Lord. But Florida, y'all, you got to come hard.
When we brought this album up, I don't remember what episode it was when we said it was we asked if this was a D&D druid or a bog witch druid, and I think this is a bog witch druid. Just off of it.
I think this may be
D&D. This would be a lich, but
yeah, this is a lich on bath salts in like Sarasota, right? That's what this is. Those bodies back there. There's a little dash of Cannibal Corpse. There is like death on the wall there, and that font, y'all. That
Yeah.
font coming out of his
I
eye.
know what the
Fucking
True
font
death.
says and can barely understand what it's.
eye sockets, though. I want my eyes to do that when they kill me. Like that's it. That's the effect I made.
100%.
Oh shit.
All right. Join us next time where we do something a little more metallic than we did this time.